Doing it live.
Yeah, I think we're actually live now.
Doing it
It
live.
started, hurrah.
Yeah, it did. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good to be talking about models and stuff. Is
Yeah,
everyone excited?
I'm pretty
Yep.
excited.
I'm always excited to talk about models.
Well, a fair amount has actually happened in the past
There actually
week or
has been a
so.
lot.
Mainly because of, was it a UK gaming expo?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. The UK Gaming Expo. So another event where they used it as an opportunity to, yeah, reveal some new models from various things. Which interestingly, a lot of them are more like specialist games models and not like normal Games Workshop stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, no, that's true,
still,
actually.
a lot of it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Particularly the stuff for Necromunda.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I feel, I mean, we'll talk at length about the models, but before we started this, I was talking a little bit about, and we've touched on this multiple times about how Games Workshop has a tendency to have really wide stances in their models,
They
and
sure
it
do.
often, I think that often makes their models look somewhat awkward, like that the legs don't attach to the hips properly, and then it like
It's really cool.
exacerbates like potential like anatomical issues with not having as much of a torso as they should, and like their legs being too bulky in relationship to everything else.
Yeah,
And
it's
whereas
true.
maybe it's not all wrong, but just because of putting them in these somewhat awkward poses, it like, yeah, just
It's all wrong.
exacerbates stuff and makes it look maybe even worse than it actually is. And even though we'll talk about like ultimately, I think these new enforcer models are great, but even they struggle with this, that their poses are so wide that there's that they can look somewhat awkward. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if that wasn't occurring, it would help. But and I guess we'll talk more about that. But I guess, guys, you can kind of think about this as we get towards it. But there's the one enforcer model that's holding two revolvers.
Two revolvers.
I
Two
think
revolvers.
the pose thing for him makes him look particularly awkward. That he's like just all legs and nothing else. And this is considering that seems to have really bulky armor, like a breastplate and shoulders and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's super bulky, but he doesn't have bulky leg armor. It's just like perhaps padded like trousers or something. But despite that, he's just all gigantic thighs attached to a small waist. And I
Yeah,
think
it's a
it's,
problem.
and it's partially, yeah,
Wait, I don't even know what model are we talking about.
one of the enforcers.
He's there. They only have one in the painted squad that's holding two revolvers, and he's just kind of standing there. And those legs, he has a really wide spread stance, and
Are
that
those
work.
revolvers?
Those are revolvers. Yeah, that stance, the wide stance, works okay, as you can see, where someone's like holding like a shotgun or something, or a bolter with two hands. Works okay there. But
Yeah, just
just like
trying
a
to
straight
place.
on pose, it's like, why are his legs so far about? Is he like doing squats while he's like alternating doing arm motions with his revolvers because they're so big and heavy? Like he's getting the exercise in. That's what I would
Yeah,
guess.
but I just think from that model there, you see huge beefy thighs, like too beefy to be real, like attaching to a really tight small waist, that is even smaller than it appears because of the gigantic, bulky armor.
Wait a minute. So the one guy holding two pistols, are they the same pistols as the one guy holding the flashlight?
I think so. Well, maybe they're
I
not.
don't.
No, they're
I think
different.
they're
They're
different.
different.
Like I think the guy holding the flashlight has what may be a revolver, and the other guns, I don't know if they're revolvers.
Well, the
It's
one who's like double holding one of the pistols in two hands, is that the same thing as flashlight guy?
No.
no,
Okay.
it's different. That's the same thing as double fisting,
Yeah.
squatting,
I
dude.
still think those look like revolvers to me, but I will admit
Yeah.
they're different, I think.
I mean, they have an external hammer. Yeah, I think the yeah, I don't know.
Well,
None of them look like revolvers to me.
I mean, they might not be. It's
I mean,
kind of
it's
hard
funny
to.
how they like.
Because the one with the flashlight, that almost can't be a revolver.
No,
Looking at the big, thick barrel that's in the center of what could be a cylinder that revolves, but like,
it's probably
It
not.
couldn't.
but then
Yeah.
it couldn't work as a revolver anyway.
But he has the other weapon, holster on his side, and look how dumb that looks. How like the front of it's so big and fat.
It
That
looks
might
bigger.
be,
It
I
looks
think
bigger than.
that might
That
be a
might even be
mall.
different.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It
No,
looks
it is
bigger
different. What
than
is that?
pistol. Power Mall or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, because it looks different from the power mall the sergeant's holding. Like, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. Well, we can talk more in depth about these um, when we're recording the podcast, I guess. I mean, I guess I will say, like, I really like them. I think they're really good, but that won't stop us from really tearing them apart. Because we're going to. We have to. Well, we
Yeah.
already sort of did.
I almost feel. Do you think it's a GW like initiative or imperative thing? Like, hey guys, like let's spend some time studying anatomy and like poses and stuff, and then like now that we've done that,
Throw
let's
it away.
kind of push it out of the way a little bit and just go back to our standard wide stance squat pose, just just to make the audience happy and like it's all it need we need to do this, guys. This is a GW model.
I sort of feel that that's.
I mean, and I guess we'll talk, I think, about this for these enforcers too, but I think part of it, and one of the reasons why they're a little bit charming to me is almost because they have those sort of weird poses, and it reminds me of like almost like this is a harkening back to like old models and
Like the old,
such.
like, Rogue Trader models and stuff.
And that like kind of makes me smile, but like ultimately it wasn't
Yeah,
necessarily the best design choice to make like the best model possible in my opinion.
maybe it was.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah. It sure is, man.
Before we actually start to just do the recording and stuff, do we want to talk about anything like before that, or like our hobby progress sort of stuff, or leave that towards the end?
No, we could probably talk about it briefly. We could also talk about it later too, depending on if activity peaks. For me, it's largely I'm just painting. I'm fondly painting. Um, Based on
Yeah.
some of this talk of last week, I was working on painting some of the bases. Well, now I'm actually painting the Sisters of Sea. You got to move on and start painting the rest. In this case, I opted to paint the final model that I converted, like the Plague Doctor model first, mainly because I was thinking that maybe the model would be pretty quick to paint, and it's pretty different from the other ones, so it's sort of like try and get that out of the way.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty happy with how she's turned out. I did a lot of experimentation with her coat, and I feel there's still a lot more work that I probably could and might like to do, but I think I just have to move on. Um,
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of models to paint.
yeah,
All
if
the
I have time,
models left.
yeah, I mean, if I have time, I can go back to it, but I won't have time.
No.
I know that I will not. There's just no way. I will
Yeah, I.
probably struggle to finish them as is. So I
Hmm.
still I have about a month yet. So yeah.
Yeah, with your help, Adam, I kind of finally finished that one night haunt sort of test model, and I think it ultimately looks pretty good. But with that in mind, like in knowing that I have basically a month to do all this stuff, I just look at the scheme's good enough. I'm moving on to try to do it, and
Yeah. I
we'll just
I
see what
sort of feel
happens.
like that's what has to happen. No, he looks the Wraith looks good. Um, looks good. Are you going? Is that going to be one of the members of your warband? You think the test one?
I don't know.
Could
We'll
be.
see. Probably. Like it's painted. Like why
Or it
not?
could be something to come in and replace all the ones when they die, because you know they're gonna die, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe they won't. I have no idea.
I mean,
I
I'll
never played
probably use it.
Necromunda.
It's done. I mean, I converted it at least a little bit to fit
Yeah,
with them.
there's all
Like
the little pins and stuff.
I didn't remove the chains and the weapon and whatnot, but
Maybe
I
you
think
should
it's
have.
still. I think
No,
it
it looks good.
still works. So I'm happy enough with it. But yeah, at this point, I just have to go forward and paint stuff.
Yeah. You are you presumably you're just going to start working on the other wraiths now, just to
That's what I'm doing. Just
try and
because
knock them out.
that's right.
Are you gonna work at them all at the same time? You think?
I've started to partially do that, but it was only to put on kind of these initial washes to make the
Mm-hmm.
ghost like appearance. But I kind of feel once I get into doing like their cloaks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the darker blues, I feel I'll probably more focus on individual ones. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
But admittedly, without the like weapons and chains and stuff like that, and I
It'll take
also
even less time.
yeah, so there's even less stuff that I have to do. So and like there
Thank
isn't
goodness. Oh, and since their hands, most of them are outstretched, you won't have to paint in between the
Like
fingers and
sword
stuff.
and paint swords and shit.
That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
I removed all like the tombstones and stuff like that as well.
Not that
Yeah.
tombstone on the model you painted.
Well, again, that's the model that I put together quickly and didn't do all the right conversion stuff because I didn't think I would actually use it.
Does it
Yeah.
have a name? Is that Wallace?
That could be Wallace.
Maybe, maybe,
Probably. Probably. Are you gonna paint the Mad Meg model?
maybe. I'd like to.
I won't.
Well,
Don't have
maybe you'll
time.
have a little bit extra time at the end.
I won't.
I still have to convert something from my leader.
Oh goodness, Eric.
Meg?
Well, so at this point, I'm going to focus on painting this stuff because I think it's enough to kind of have something or another of a war band. And if the stuff's all painted, that's
Mm-hmm.
something.
That is
Yeah.
something. I almost
Oh,
feel bad, like looking on Instagram, seeing all the other people working on their war bands. It's like I feel like I've spent so much time working on mine, and it's almost like I didn't do anything. Like I hardly made any models. Like Kiri, for instance, he like made his whole cool war band, and now he's building like an awesome board, and like, yeah, helps put things into perspective. Where I spent like a year making 7 models, like, damn, yeah, how about that? But yeah, it is what it is. Everyone works at their own pace and has different
Yeah.
priorities and focuses.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, just the only thing I just would like to say, like, man, I just wish those contrast paints were out a few weeks earlier. Like, that could have really helped. Really could have helped speed up my process. Like the one thick coat scheme. Like, I really like
Oh yeah.
that. Obviously, that's not true. I wouldn't have even considered using them. I feel like maybe you could have tried to use them on something like your wraiths and stuff, but like
Yeah.
whatever, you're figuring it, you're doing it just fine without them. So
Yeah, possibly. But I feel the same
I'd be
issues with
pretty leery. Yeah,
the same issues that one always has with.
is Eric gone?
He may be gone.
That's good.
I think he's gone.
Oh no! I wonder if his PC just froze or he lost the internet connection. I would say his PC probably just blue screened or something, and
Yeah.
he's gone. Well, hopefully he'll be back soon.
Yeah, we
Hopefully,
need him.
we sure do.
He's the one that starts the podcasts.
I could never do that.
Yeah, he's the expert at it.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. I think the next of the sisters is Sigmar. I'll probably start painting maybe one of the sister superiors, maybe the metal one that I based off of the
Yeah.
old metal sister Sigmar. And I'd like to say I'll be able to finish painting her pretty quickly. Like, I essentially will have to. Oh boy, since I have essentially 4 weeks to paint, I have to paint more than one a week. That's rough.
Well, you're at a good pace having finished this one.
No, it's true, but I mean, like, I feel a lot of my painting, like, if all goes well, I'll have, like, an entire weekend to paint. I mean, I literally spent, like, most of the weekend painting this model. So,
I spent most of my weekend reading a final version of the book that I wrote.
well,
It was
that's
so not fun. And it also
everyone.
it reminded me of like back in graduate school or back in college when you had some deadline that you fucking had to get to it. So like you just had to keep doing it. Couldn't really take a break. You just had to keep plowing forward, which is probably about the same feeling you have about the painting of models.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's it. That's exactly it. So, I mean, that means I feel each weekend I have to at least finish painting one model.
I'm back, guys. Sorry about
Hey,
that.
Eric. We were kind of trying to guess what happened to your PC. Did it, like, lock up or
Oh
something?
yeah, blue screen, blue
That's
screen.
neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Every
So,
once in a while, like I'll see, like on YouTube, there'll be like a little thing spinning, and then it's like, is there a lag issue here, or is my computer in the process of, um,
failing.
yeah, and in this case, it was indeed failing.
That's
Well,
pretty
do you
neat.
have any notions that something wrong with your motherboard or some? Do you think
I'm
that
not,
might be
I'm not
indicative of?
entirely sure. Talking with a friend, he suggests that he thought there was a possibility that just reformatting a computer would help. I
Yeah.
haven't done that yet because.
Your video's all kinds of choppy, Eric. And now it's back. Yeah, it's all kinds of choppy.
Hooray.
So that's neat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The internet in my apartment's bad, or it's very
Very
inconsistent.
variable.
Yeah, it's very inconsistent.
Makes sense. Okay. Well,
Looks
so
horrible.
it's good. Maybe we just wanna
Yeah, I would say
start the
we
podcast.
start
Try and get it done as quickly as we can before the PC bricks on you. You know.
It's true. I mean, regardless, even if it does,
Fuck. I
Yeah.
maybe don't have Audible. I don't have Audible installed.
Audacity.
well,
Oh, Audacity. That's it's called Audacity.
Yeah,
if
man.
Say,
my
I was
computer
gonna say
does,
we recorded something since I like rebuilt my computer. It's like what? All right,
Yeah,
so
we
I'm,
did.
even if my computer fails, like provided yours still is going at them, I could in a pinch just extract the audio from the YouTube video, and it works
Well,
okay. So
yeah. Well, that's good. That's pretty cool. Cool for all of us.
pretty neat.
yeah, wow, is this choppy for me?
Yeah, it looks horrible, Eric.
Yep,
All right, so I'm
yeah,
ready.
yeah. We might as well do it. Everyone have Audacity up.
You know it.
All right, and they've changed the respective microphone settings.
I have.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna do the normal thing, and I'm gonna pretty much start now.
Heck yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1, record. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dragged into Turbolasers, a Between the Bolter and Me podcast. This is episode 59, and I'm your host, Eric Wire, and I'm joined with my two brothers, Adam Wire
Hey, everybody.
and Greg Wire.
Hey everyone.
Wow, it's good the both of you could join me tonight.
Lots of
We're
exciting things to talk about, you know.
Yeah, no, and this episode's actually coming relatively shortly after the last episode, which was also, or it was about what Warhammer Fest and kind of some of the reveals they had at that, which was I don't know a week or two
I've
ago.
already forgotten what they showed. Does anybody remember?
It was all sort of like good, but also kind of underwhelming,
Yeah, it was
like that
just like
Chaos Knight,
a random assortment of stuff, like the Chaos Knight.
which was good. But then there was like a Painted Sister of Battle, which was fine. There were another Warcry Warband, which was
Mm-hmm.
fine. A lot
Oh,
of stuff that
yeah.
was good enough, but wasn't like
The
wow,
new
this is so
Primaris
exciting.
battle tank, right? Was that?
Yep, there
Yeah.
was that
Okay.
too. But today we're going to actually talk about more reveals, and this is through the UK Games Expo.
Yeah,
And
this was an expo that didn't really know it was coming up, and I'm glad it came.
yeah,
Came
and
up and
interestingly, I know this had less things were revealed, but ultimately, I think it is more exciting than the reveals from
I'm more
Warhammer
excited
Fest.
about the stuff. I mean, it focused mainly. A lot of it was on like specialist game stuff.
Yeah,
Like
it's true.
probably the biggest reveal was on they teased about this like Warhammer Fest that Necromunda was gonna get some like police like enforcer models, and when they finally showed pictures of the models, um, and I guess these what do they call them? Um,
The Palatine Enforcers, I think, or something of that nature.
Palanite enforcers. Yeah, so these aren't like the Adeptus Arbites. These are something a little different from that.
I feel they're still basically
It's a
that though.
brutal
These are
branch
like,
of law enforcement. I think they're related to the Inquisition though too. So
or I think it's that the Adeptus Arbites or Arbites or however you pronounce it, they're like all about upholding the imperial law on Terra and potentially other places. But if they give out some of their officers or enforcers to like different planetary governors to help manage things, they're considered enforcers then.
Or put in the employ of like an inquisitor or something.
So I think it's oftentimes if they give out some for planetary governors and stuff, they're called enforcers. But also if they're like an inquisitor requests some or whatever, they're often like enforcers and
Well, do you
such.
think
So
Godwin Fishig was an enforcer? I haven't read those size and arm
yeah,
books yet.
I don't know what probably. So and these ones I guess are probably ones that were under Necromunda's planetary governor to sort of protect stuff. So I guess in that sense, they kind of take orders from the governor or an inquisitor or whatever. So they aren't as focused on really upholding imperial law.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a little different in that sense. But I mean, they're still, I imagine they're equipped probably in a similar way. And they kind of look like what one would anticipate, like fairly heavily armored,
Except for their helmets.
brutish looking warriors. Yeah, they said they were generally kind of redesigned a little bit to modernize them. And it's hard not to look at them and say, like, hey, these are lightly armored Primaris Marine intercessors, because
Yeah,
their helmets.
they're pretty similar. Like I feel if there's one major gripe at their like overall design, well, aside from their like weapons and poses and stuff, it's those helmets just look so off. They almost look like they look like football players, kind of Space Marine football
Well,
players. This is like
well,
when the
that's what.
Space Marines are out of their armor and their like recreation and stuff. This is what they look like
When they're playing Blood Bowl.
when they're
Yeah, well, because
yeah.
people, I saw some people online kind of complaining, like, this just looks like the human Blood Bowl team with guns and like Primaris heads. And like, it's not that far off.
These ones are
I mean,
designed a lot. They look a lot more
yeah,
natural than the Blood Bowl team.
yeah. I
So
mean,
like
I even like the helmets.
people
Yeah.
should use these to make their Blood Bowl teams.
Ultimately, I even like the helmets, but not really necessarily for these models, like because it's just too similar
I mean,
to.
think how cool those would be on Cadian shock troops.
Oh,
Like, don't you want a
look
Cadian shock
horrible.
troop with a Primaris helmet head? Yeah.
I feel like
Third
everyone
gear
and their
first,
brother is
everybody.
going to buy these and put on the
Skitari heads.
People will come out of the woodwork like, man, these are the best kit bashes. This is how they should have looked.
They still have a lot of despite even though they look really nice, they still like a lot of the like hallmark GW model issues that I think we largely harp on every single model they release. They're still all largely present here. In some ways, they're not as bad as what we'd see on other models.
One thing, they remind me a lot of the Scion models,
They do
but
look a lot like that. Their
but I feel they look
poses,
like they were designed with more finesse
their poses don't look quite
than
as
the Scion
awkward
models.
as the Scions. They still do. They still do have like really wide, sort of unnatural stances. Like every single one of them, even the one kind of walking forward, their legs are just spread really wide. And then what makes it look even weirder is they have like monstrously thick like leg muscles, thighs and stuff like that. Like they're so thick, so big. It's like what's going on there? Do they have? I guess maybe they have black carapacers. These are actually Space Marines guys. They have black carapace or some bullshit underneath their tunics. It's like what the fuck? Why are they
But then
so
it's the
big?
black carapace isn't very thick though.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I guess in some sense that their poses are a little odd in the fact that those stances are so wide, but in some sense that's just what GW loves to do. And these are kind of no different. In some ways, it almost it reminds me of some old kind of campy looking Rogue Trader models and some of the old
Mm.
stormtroopers and such, and it kind of makes me smile that they look like this. But as you were saying, like some of the models, particularly there's one that's holding like two pistols of some sort, and like without like a large weapon in the front to kind of obscure things, it's like it's so obvious that his legs are so widespread and then the thighs are so muscled
So
that,
beefcake,
I mean,
dumb,
even if they have
like.
really thick baggy pants, it still doesn't look like they attach to the hips properly, or even if it attaches properly, the like each thigh is like thicker than his torso, or
It's
as
not quite
thick,
true. It's about the same size though.
and like that's
Yeah.
weird. And it's particularly because it even looks more awkward in the sense that his torso has this huge bulky carapace armor. So like you can only imagine that if that was taken off, you'd
Oh
look a
my
little bit
god.
smaller.
Yeah.
So like, whew, that's
Like,
weird looking.
what I'd almost
That's
recommend you
weird.
doing is cutting off their legs so they have like the little like tunic dress type whatevers. Just cut off their legs from there down and replace them.
Keeping the tunic part though.
Yeah,
I think
because
we
it would
could
be
probably
easier.
keep that.
Keep that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
and then
think
so
that would help.
there's also the in this picture here. There's the one person holding the bolter on the far left in the center. Well, there are two of them actually. The two on the far left holding the bolter, like look how wide their legs are, and it's like it almost looks like he's his rear foot, he's just like dragging it along, like it's like limp or something. He's like, oh, like I'm badly injured, and he's just like dragging it along. Like, just if like just think about it, like get up and start like walking around, and like you would never
Well,
be in
I
that
guess
pose.
because of their gigantic thighs and such, and how it attaches to a small torso and whatnot, it just makes some of the models look really bottom heavy. And
Yeah.
interestingly, like that the limping guy you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
you can also see that like because they have these really thick greaves sort of uh, wrist plate
Mm-hmm.
things, that also makes the some of the arms look a little awkward, like that they're like hanging super low and disjointed. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that's what your eyes kind of look at, and it looks kind of weird.
Yeah, so I feel these all those things we talked about are like a characteristic like GW thing in like nearly all of their models. These ones, they I don't think they look as bad as some of the others. Like they certainly look a lot better than the Imperial Guard Scions. And some of the other stuff, like their bulky body armor and some of that stuff, sort of like it helps balance out how massive their legs are. Um,
You know it does know it's even more massive than these models.
hmm.
The new Chaos Cultist for Blackstone Fortress.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we can
we'll
get.
get to them, and that this whole notion of like massive legs and tiny bodies and stuff, that I feel is even more apparent with them. Um,
I think we should get to them sooner rather than later. I mean, do we have too much more to say about these models? I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about their weaponry.
I mean,
It's admittedly better than a lot of.
much better than I anticipated. I mean, ultimately, I feel there are some things like that, like the legs are kind of weird, but I feel it won't take too much to convert and make them look maybe a little bit more natural.
I
I
mean, it'll
still
be
think it's
hard.
a really neat kit.
Um, overall, I really
Yeah,
like
yeah.
them.
Well,
Like, I feel my favorite is the one holding the sniper rifle. I mean, I don't necessarily love all the aspects of the sniper rifle, but he has like a really compact feel to him. Like he's holding the rifle really close
It looks
in.
like he's kind of hunching.
Yeah, so this model looks the most like some of the old wonky like Rogue Trader adventure models and stuff. He looks like one of them. So I almost feel like I have to convert one of them and like paint him to kind of look like some of those old Rogue Trader
Yeah, well,
models.
he's my favorite too. But it almost looks like he's slightly hunched, like trying to hold his weapon really close to himself. Again, would work well if he had like a like a carbine or something like a P90 or whatever, and like trying to hold it really close to like do like um
Tight
close
maneuvers and
quarter sort
stuff.
of
Yeah.
stuff, hallways or whatever, and it like, and I mean even some of the ones like with the pistols and stuff, like they're holding their arms really close to the chest, which I think kind of fit this idea that they're like trained for
Hmm.
breaching doors and rooms and whatnot. And I think that that's pretty neat. The one has a shotgun that I think looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I feel
In
the shotgun is one of the better weapons they have there. Like it's one of the smaller shotguns they've made. It has more of like a futuristic like pump look. Like this is more along the lines of what I feel the Space Marine like Death Watch shotgun should have looked like.
Mhm.
Um, then they also have like slightly
Yeah, it's
smaller
neat that it
bolters.
actually looks different.
Their bolters, I think, aside from the weird like dueling pistol grip, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Aside from that, they look pretty good. Um, they didn't put stocks on them, which is a shame. But aside from that, they look pretty good. I feel, and they're sized
Well,
pretty
so when
well.
you
They're
say
pretty
dueling
small.
pistol, you mean like,
Flintlock pistol.
or the grip?
Like a black powder
Yes,
pistol.
so it's
Yeah.
like one of those old flintlock pistols
Mm-hmm.
that now modern pistol grip things don't have a grip that has such a um,
Gradual
the
slope.
angle is usually sharper for the pistol grip.
Yeah.
The round has to become like parallel to the barrel.
Yeah.
So it seems like, I mean, not saying that they couldn't do it,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
like
and there are
that,
mechanisms that do
They
stuff
could, I
like
mean,
that.
remember the P90 like
yeah.
assault rifle, like the bullet, like it does some severe
That like I mean that turns it. I mean, I
acrobatics.
guess ultimately I'm just saying it's interesting that they did it because like they would just have to do some engineering gymnastics to like
Mm-hmm.
to get it. It's almost just like, hey guys, make it such that we can market it to like
Yeah.
It was
people as
just
like the next
look
tactical.
visually interesting,
Yeah.
I think.
They
But
also
over
have
like they're nice. It's nice that they are a little bit smaller. I mean, they're still large, but
they're some of the better
I,
looking bolters they've made.
I'm surprised they're as small as they are when these guys in general are pretty bulky.
They have like at least one,
They
maybe
have some
two types of
pistols as
pistols.
well. Like there's one in the back that's just kind of holding a pistol in two hands.
That looks good.
The one that's holding the one in two hands, I like him. Like it looks to me, it reminds me of like some sort of Magnum revolver. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if this is supposed to be a revolver, but like it's a large pistol certainly. But like if I imagine it as like a Smith and Wesson 500, like one of those huge Magnum revolvers, like it to me the size actually kind of makes sense.
It's still
Um,
too big, but it's like
it's still huge,
it's kind of along the lines of what you'd expect. And then there's one holding like a
but then the
pistol
one that
and like a flashlight. That's kind of neat. So that's a pretty good pose.
yeah, I feel the pistol stuff all works pretty well. The one that's holding two, like those pistols are too large to ever want to actually hold two of them.
I
So
mean,
like I
maybe
don't
he
think
has
that
another one in a
goes.
holster on his side, or I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
It
I'm not
looks
sure what that
different.
is either.
They have like in the little video they talk about them having like melta charges and stuff. Maybe that
Hmm.
those or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe.
I don't know. They look good. I like them.
Well, yeah,
Let's
I
move
like them.
on.
I'm excited to to do something with them. And I think a lot of people will do a lot to convert them. So
Yeah,
Nice.
that's cool.
almost 1150
Mm.
slate.
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, do we want to talk a little bit about there's a new Blood Bowl team?
Let's do it briefly.
I thought we were going to talk about the cultists that sort of talk about. We
Yeah,
talked
let's
about
just
those
get to the
weird
cultists.
proportions. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they also announced an expansion for Blackstone Fortress where they have some new Chaos cultists. And
And interestingly, it looks like this expansion comes with that uh, sort of new Rogue Trader model and a new Tech Priest and uh, Psyker
yeah,
and
wasn't
stuff
that
that
a,
we
like
talked
they were
about
talking about a
previously.
battle arena game or something? Those are the
Yeah, so
models.
I wonder if they're still releasing that or if that's like we released this at Barnes and Noble, but then
Mm-hmm.
it's also bundled in with this expansion. Well, regardless, it's nice to see maybe a slightly larger expansion, adding some additional heroes and things. But you don't
It's
need to
not
talk.
what I wanted. Oh my goodness. Like, so they designed
Yeah,
some new Chaos cultists, and, like, I don't know.
These are nothing compared to those cool Chaos Imperial Guard models in the game.
Yes, like, these are, like, awful compared to them.
they
These are
just
kind
don't
of
have the
back.
subtle.
No, they're kind of backpedaling to the older plastic Chaos cultist models, which I, like, almost hated. Um, and one of the big
Yeah, I
things
feel that
about
none of them
these.
have the subtlety of
No, and like their
the.
proportions are just so awkward. Like I feel their upper bodies, they look pretty good. Like they're well muscled. Their arms are like a little smaller, and they look pretty real. And then once you go past the waist, it's like you look at these barrel legs, and like they almost like what is going on? And like so many of the GW models look like that, and I just don't like the look of it at all. Um, the
One, it
female
almost
models, they have like the female models, and there they make the legs a little thinner and smaller, and it's like, why don't all the legs look like that?
yeah, yeah. Well, I think this kind of goes in hand with the enforcer models, talking about how some of them look like their legs are so thick, but then their torsos look like they would have to be fairly small considering they have all this armor. And if you look at these really have that idea that there's a fine looking torso with legs or with arms and all that stuff, but then it's just like they just pasted on these tree trunk like legs and they're so large that it doesn't look like the hip is um, large enough or proportioned right to even accept them.
It doesn't
Yeah,
look
it's
like they
almost
have
like
a
they have a hip. They
groin.
don't even have a hip. Particularly though,
It's
like the
like they
one in
took.
the one in the middle at the bottom with like the mask, and he's trying to load his oversized rifle.
It's like if you took two legs attached to a groin and you cut out the groin area and then glued the two legs together. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Ward Sylvania's here.
Hey,
Hi, Ward Sylvania.
nice to see you here.
We just got done talking for a while about the new Necromunda Enforcers, which largely we think are good. And now we're kind of complaining about some proportions on these Chaos
Yeah,
Cult.
like I just think like the idea here was okay. Like, and they have some interesting masks, and like they could be kind of neat, but they don't fit together very well. Like the grenade that one's throwing is so large, which then fits with like their rifles, which are so large.
Well, so the one person that's looking down the sights of his auto gun or his or her auto gun, that doesn't look very good. But that person's legs aren't as thick
Yeah,
as,
they're
say, the
not.
one in the middle with the magazine about to load. So that's a little bit interesting.
There's one kind of holding an ammunition box or
He
whatever.
looks a little better
But
That
look
too.
one's
how
legs aren't huge.
look how thin his upper arm is.
Yeah.
Like it's so thin. I almost wonder if they like when they tried to Photoshop the white out there, they got a little of its arm, or I don't know.
No, probably not, because the one right beside him
It's
in the
really
center
thin
is kind
too,
of
I
like
guess.
that too. I don't know. These are just a jumbled mess. Like, I think people are super excited about the initial Blackstone Fortress game, partly because there were Traitor Imperial Guard. Like, I think a lot of people would rather see Traitor Imperial Guard than more Chaos Cultists.
I'd like to see better Chaos Cultists.
Well, I mean, me too, but like these are very much in along the same vein as those plastic chaos cultists that came out in I don't know the name of the box game that like they're seen in conversions all over the place and like it
Dark Vengeance ones, they're
the Dark
terrible.
Vengeance ones like I like almost from when they were released I hated them and I still hate them and these look aside from maybe the female ones look better because their legs aren't as big, but the other ones, like you can tell they're changing the proportions. They're making the head smaller, maybe the arms a little smaller, the hands a little smaller,
Or
but they didn't change the legs.
the arms are thinner, so they're not quite as hugely muscular, which is good. But yeah,
Yeah.
they change the legs.
So in many
So much
regards, like they're
like, hey,
getting
let's make
better.
Warlock legs and put on another torso. Like let's yeah, it's just they're not right. I mean, admittedly, since Adam, you and I have been playing Blackstone Fortress, I'm sure I'll get this. And since they're so kind of I'll just quickly trim them, assemble them, and we can use them and never really think about them.
I think you're right, Ward Sylvania. The legs being so big kind of makes everything else look weird. And so they also showed some character models from these. Look, what do they look like? They, um, so they're sort of more of the same.
They're a lot. They're better
The female
though.
model looks pretty good, and then the male guy, they designed him to make him look like a bigger, bulkier guy, and so his massive legs don't look quite as bad.
Yeah, I think he looks fine. But yeah, I think as you mentioned North Sylvania and kind of as we've just been talking, for some reason Games Workshop loves making gigantic, huge, thick legs with huge feet and such.
That are
And they
often spread really far apart.
and why they always do that, I don't know. And some of these more than ever, it's like so obvious how that often doesn't look quite right. And that if they just made them smaller, it would probably minimize the idea of like not having a torso and all these
Oh
things in
yeah, they'd look
models.
a lot better. I
So
think, yeah.
I think that would help with just even the old third edition plastic space marine if that was changed. Like all those things, if they would
I
not
think so.
always do those things, it would fix a lot of their models
It would
or like
help a lot.
weird proportions of him.
Yeah, it would.
Which I guess so. This is probably a good segue to talk about the Wood Elf team slightly because these models, you notice like most of them don't have these huge like thighs. They don't have these wide stances, and they look so much better. I mean, like one or two do have, or like one in particular has a pretty wide stance, but it makes sense in like the dynamics of the motion.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at them, like they all have much more natural poses that fit with kind of whatever emotion or whatever they're doing, and they also, I guess, partially because they're wearing like almost like a body glove, like spandex or something, that they tried to make the legs and arms and stuff a little bit smaller, and it
Mm-hmm.
looks so much better. I mean, they're clearly very muscled, which
Mm-hmm.
is good, or which is fine. But I feel this is a release this that maybe people aren't really looking at it being excited about, but I almost think of all the stuff we've talked about today, these will be like one of the best things for converting like things just in the sense that their musculature looks reasonable. They're not in all this dumb bulky armor. I mean, their feet are still fairly large, but they're not like the other models we've been talking about today. Like I feel they would be a pretty good starting point for creating um, Imperial assassins or any
Mm-hmm.
sort of Imperial operative just wearing like a body glove or whatnot. And since they aren't overladen with armor and symbols and stuff, like I think it wouldn't be wildly hard to convert them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
I think it's interesting how these are like almost like the polar opposite of most GW models in that yeah, their legs aren't super wide. And honestly, like I feel a lot of the Blood Bowl
Mm-hmm.
teams are some
Yeah,
of
they're
the
better.
best fit for conversions, and they tend to be better in terms of poses than
Well, I think
many.
they have very defined poses that they want to try
Yeah,
and capture. Um, so I think
I
that
think
sort
that
of helps.
that helps a lot. Whereas just like we need to have someone holding a gun. We don't know what guns look like. We don't know how one holds a gun.
So
We've never
yeah,
seen a gun. Like let's just I don't know guess at it.
let's
But
just have them
then
standing straight, legs spread wide apart, and
let's do something that no one would ever do
yeah,
and make all of our models look like that.
I
Well, not
like it.
all, but a lot. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so this Blood Bowl team will be good. And I almost think these would be good for making Harlequins and such too.
Yeah.
They have interesting poses that fit with that as well. Like so they're good.
Wartlemania is also asking what we thought about the hero models from I assume Blackstone Fortress. So we talked about them at length in maybe one of the other podcasts.
I feel they're okay. They're not nearly as good as the ones from Blackstone Fortress.
No, like they're well short of that, but they're
Because
still all pretty characterful. Like the Psyker is probably the best. Then, then I don't know what.
I
The
really dislike the like peg leg knife thing.
for the Rogue Trader, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
like
like that. The enforcer, like the knightly enforcer or whatever, he doesn't have a torso. His torso's too short. That
Otherwise,
kills that for me.
his
Um,
stance is really wide again as well. But I mean that works a little bit better in the sense that he's just kind of trying to stand
yeah.
stoically, but
The
they're
tech
all right.
priest, the tech priest looks super awkward. Like they didn't know what they wanted to do with that model. And then the redesigned servitor overall looks pretty good. His legs look a little bad. Like the his legs kind of look like they just got two tubes of like putty and like kind of loosely bent them into a pose, let them dry, and called it done. Like there's no definition for like where the knees are or anything like that, so the legs look kind of bad.
Yeah, they
But
do.
I think these models, along with the mediocre Chaos Cultists, like there's enough good and interesting stuff there that people can make neat stuff out of them.
I
Like
mean,
yeah,
I'm,
I think
these heroes are certainly better than the cultists in the box,
yeah they
but
are.
they're not like the Blackstone Fortress models where some of them, like the robot and the navigator, it's like fuck, these are so great. Like I don't even need to convert them at all, and I'm just happy to have them. None
Mm-hmm.
of these are that really, but I feel they're all will all be a good source of like parts and such to create things. So that's exciting. And I feel ultimately all these releases that we've been talking about today kind of fit in that that bill that they may
Yeah.
not be perfect, which because nothing ever will be, but they all have a lot of opportunities for converting and making cool models for ourselves, even if we're not just going to assemble them as is. But like that's never really our intent anyway. So
Yeah.
I guess we should probably at least talk briefly about the
Warcry.
Warcry team. So there's a or team Warcry warband.
This is probably the most interesting
I think it's
of
their
the new
fourth.
war bands.
The snake ones, um,
Corn
yeah,
ones, the
yeah,
generic barbarian ones.
yeah, and then these are like sort of Raven based ones, and I think these are of all the warbands they've shown thus far. I think this is probably my favorite.
Yes, certainly. They look the best. They're certainly the most interesting of the war bands. Like they have a lot of elements that we've seen a lot before. Some of them, but overall they look pretty good. Like they're pretty well muscled. They're not as big and bulky as some of the other ones. Their feet are too big. Like particularly if you look at the one in this picture in the very bottom left corner who's like running to kick a football, like
Hmm.
those feet are just so big, so massive. They look like hobbit feet.
Well, I wish that, well, you said that they're not quite as, the models in general, they're not as muscular and big as some of GW stuff. That's true. But I wish they looked more like that Blood Bowl team, like
Yeah,
their proportions.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they were proportioned more like that Blood Bowl team, they would be a lot better. And then I think they could take the neat concept here and like really. So I guess maybe it was even just a design choice because like I feel all of the war bands thus far have kind of a comical look to them, sort of a comical caricatured look about them.
This
Uh,
one's the least of
It
that.
is certainly the least of that, but I almost feel like maybe that was just a design choice that they wanted to make them look a little comical.
I feel. I mean, the biggest thing to me that looks comical is how big their feet are. Particularly that one I was running to kick the football. Like, oh my goodness.
There's the one also that it's the bottom right that's kind of jumping upward, and I guess maybe it is partially due to how large that foot is. And I mean, I guess some people have really large feet, so they
Not
maybe
that
these
large.
just have really large feet. Well, the like leaderish one that has those shoes with the one that's
Mm-hmm.
jumping with the big wings, like his feet, his or her, I'm not sure. They're a little bit smaller, maybe.
Maybe.
yeah.
I mean, they're still large feet, but and actually, to be honest, most of these don't have the characteristic wide pose, and I
No,
guess it
yeah.
probably is because there's more of a they're a bit more dynamic and they're actually trying to have them do something like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this one's jumping down, this one's like running, like they're trying to actually have them do a particular task, and because of that they were able to like
They
maybe
look a
look
lot
at
better.
someone in that pose.
I love the little like raven coming down to like claw at the severed head.
Hmm.
The raven
Yeah.
that might be the star of the set.
The one on the top right that's running, I think
She looks good.
looks good, like really good pose. And there's also one that is kind of stalking forward with a spear. I mean, I don't really like that spear or even the pickaxe-ish thing, but the pose looks good. And
I think I just keep my eyes keep going back to football kicker in the bottom, and he looks awful. The I it oh my goodness. I
Hey, Captain Timberlane, nice to see you here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good to have you. Like I almost I think now the thing I hate most about GW proportions is how big they make their feet. I just hate it. I feel like I hate it so much because it's just so wrong. It looks so wrong. And these models, I think, for the most part, I think they look really good. There are some visual aspects I don't love, but like they look good, their muscles look pretty good, their poses are pretty good, their weapons are small in the term of like GW weapons, but then you're like, oh my god, look at their feet. And in some regards, since they're not wearing boots, they look smaller. Like just imagine if these models had boots on,
yeah.
like holy shit, they would look horrible.
Well, see, that's the good thing they don't, though.
Yeah, so it's like I almost feel like if I got some of these models, I would what I would literally do is I would shave down their feet and sculpt boots on them.
Yeah.
And they would be smaller than their feet here in the end.
Well, Adam, I guess, I mean, to be honest, like, GW just wants to make sure that when you're looking across the tabletop at a model, they want you to know that those are feet.
Like
I mean, it's something that an argument that I think
yeah.
we often forget that these are they're caricatured like this, so across the tabletop, people know that that Imperial Guardsman has a las gun, and in the same sense, they want you to be able to look across the
They
tabletop.
do have feet.
That's a gigantic foot.
No, so Warren
Sarcasm aside,
Sylvania, you're
Adam.
right. If they had boots, they'd look like those new Chaos Cultist models. They really would. Um, and no, overall, like I think the proportions of the models on these are pretty good. Like they're better than a lot of their stuff, except for their feet.
Yeah, I like the models. I feel,
Like, oh my
and
god, those feet. Like I particularly the one that looks the worst is the one sprinting in the bottom left corner, football kicker, as I will call him. Like,
I
ugh,
wonder if I kind of feel some of the angles maybe it wouldn't look as bad. Well, like
that's
there's
probably
the one
true.
that's
Yeah.
the one female one that's kneeling down that kind of has a raven perching on her arm or whatever. Her feet look a bit smaller, although admittedly it might just be that because it's a female model, so they're trying to make her a little bit slighter looking, and therefore just looks better because
Yeah.
it's not
So
overdone.
actually, you're right. The paint job on these models, I think, is really good, and it's in itself is kind of pretty atmospheric and interesting. The whole notion that they all have like the blood around like what looks to be like a cut throat. It's cool. It's neat.
Yeah, I feel this warband looks the best, and it like all of like the visual, the designs, the motion, all combines to like give at least to me more of a sense of what the warband might be like.
These ones just they look a lot more natural than a lot of the other ones. Like if you go back and if you think on like the corn ones or like the standard barbarian ones, most of them kind of had like super wonky like ham-fisted poses with unusually large weapons for GW standards that just kind of all work together to make them look sort of
There's a
comical.
kind of there's one of their pictures they have um, of kind of like in like a battle scene, like but below this, you see kind of another angle of the Raven one, and like yeah, he is really cool looking.
Yeah, super cool. I mean,
Like
yeah, this is
really
by far the
cool.
best of those war bands, and it's great here. Like because of the angle, most of them you can't see their feet, and it's like heck yeah, I don't want to see those.
No.
Yeah, they're really cool. I feel like this would be of all the ones, this would be the one I would be most interested in getting. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, get them replace all their weapons with smaller ones. Like they would be pretty cool.
Shave down their feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got something really special. So yeah, I'm excited about them. It'll be interesting to see how many more war bands they have. Like I think in some of the initial pictures they had like the little
Like seven or
symbols
eight.
for the different war bands, and I don't remember
There
how
were at
many
least
there
seven.
were. So that probably means we have a few more. Did anyone watch the video?
I think I did. It didn't. It
This
wasn't.
silhouette, if you look at the silhouette, his feet aren't their feet aren't as big. Like I like that.
Which silhouette?
In the video, there's like a silhouette of a model, of like artwork of a model, and their feet aren't as big.
Uh, well, yeah, like their artwork, or oftentimes the artwork is proportioned better,
Yeah.
or in
I
a
don't know.
more
I think it's
natural way.
just GW's design language in their models. I don't like. There are a lot of aspects of it that I just don't like at all. The heroic scale proportioning, the barrel size legs, the like massive
Well, yeah, I
feet.
mean,
Like
I
it's
guess we
no,
don't, we can maybe don't have to keep beating the dead horse, but like I
yeah,
guess
it's
what's
dead.
maybe the
We killed
weird
it.
thing about it is we're talking about it being like, oh, don't like that heroic scale thing, but that what's weird about it, like these cultists that we were talking about, like the top portion of them, like the torso and their arms and such, they aren't really that heroic scale,
No, yeah, they look good.
but then the legs,
It's like,
I
oh
guess you
wait,
would say
yeah,
it's heroic scale. It's just different. They're like so huge. So it's just like that like weird amalgamation of some stuff heroic, some not. It's just like it almost seems like they're not sure what they want to do with it. And
they don't want
it
to
looks
change the
weird.
imagery all in one go, and so they're just slowly working towards better and better. And like they're starting at the top of the model and working down. Like GW over the past few years have been starting to make the heads smaller and smaller, which in some regards I think is good, but since they haven't worked down past the waist and everything, their legs and their feet are still just as big as ever. It makes the small heads look so awkward to me. So it's like,
One thing that's interesting, um, and you sort of mentioned it here, Captain Timberley, about it would be interesting to listen to the design team and like what goes into it. I think one thing that is interesting that from what I gather, the design team from like Games Workshop proper is completely separate from Forge World and Specialist Games, such that I don't even think they really communicate with one another. So like why like these Blackstone Fortress models, why these particular ones are so off compared to some of the other stuff is interesting. And I wonder if it's partially due to like the taste of the particular sculptor. Like
mhm.
I don't know. Or if it's like, oh, like we can take
I think it's
assets we already have and then modify them, and they were already kind of off, and like, well, let's redesign the top, like the torsos of these models because we want to do something new, but just slap on.
well, so I think that's why some of the Necromunda models and stuff, their proportions are just very different from the standard GW thing. I think if you want classic GW proportions, I think you just have to think to like the Dark Vengeance Chaos Cultists. And like sort of what we're seeing here, those are like the classic proportions to me. Um, and
Yeah, no,
I th-
Blackstone Fortress isn't specialist games, so um,
but
but
I
I
would
think
almost argue since it's but that doesn't even make sense. I was gonna say it's because it's not. It's kind of its own separate thing, and like I imagine the the confines and the restraints placed on it were probably a lot less than a
yeah,
traditional
I
like
think
GW
that's
product, such that they had more freedom to change and like modify things and like
yeah,
maybe and then but then I guess if that were the case, you'd sort of maybe you'd hope to see the same stuff when this newer warband, and I guess in some regards you sort of do. Like they still have some of the slider models here, some of which are probably female ones. Like those, their legs do look better, their feet are smaller. So I guess and I've said this before, I almost wish they would just take those proportions and just use those rather than the bigger, bulkier alpha male
I mean,
poses.
I guess it is nice to be at a point where we can actually like there are female models in here. They were just sort of naturally included. Like
Yeah, they're not making a big deal about
that's a
it.
big thing that
Yeah, and it's
we
good.
wouldn't have seen 5 years ago. So that's cool. You mentioned Captain Timberlake, how it's sort of funny how there's the one like trying to shoot his auto gun, and it's obviously they tried to give it a pose as though it had a stock, but it doesn't. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's
It's
pretty
pretty
good.
funny.
I like it. I
It
like
would have
it.
been harder to sculpt it with a stock and have the.
Yeah, but I mean, they already sort of did it with like the Blackstone Fortress models. They did it.
On like almost all these models have stocks on their auto guns, except for the single one that's actually trying to shoot the auto gun.
Yeah.
They removed it from there, and it must have just been because that would have been harder to sculpt.
It
Yeah,
almost had to have
but
been.
it's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, it's weird. But I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'm glad most of them have stocks. Like, that's pretty good. It's a step in the right direction. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
So we don't necessarily have to stop
yeah.
talking, but maybe
Yeah,
we
we
can
can
end
probably
on
end this episode here, and then we can keep talking a little
yeah,
bit
so overall, I think they announced a lot of cool stuff at the UK Gaming Expo, and a lot of stuff that like I'm personally excited to like eventually get and use in different conversions and stuff. So like hats off to GW. Like I think they're doing a really good job pushing their brand forward and making new interesting models. So always have something to talk about, which is good.
Yep, it's true.
All right,
All
so I
right.
think we
Well,
can conclude this episode of the podcast, and we'll hopefully be back pretty soon.
yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Um, I guess, follow us on Instagram, all that stuff. I mean, I would say Twitter, but we don't really do much on there.
That's
But
pretty hard.
yeah, I guess ultimately, thanks everybody for listening and following us. And yeah, we'll talk to you again soon.
Yep, over and out. Heck yeah.
Well, another one's done. Hooray.
Making custom bolt guns, that's great. Like, I've made so many custom bolters and stuff in the past, and like, I sort of always want to make more. And like, a lot of the ones that I've made, yeah, they've had like collapsible stocks and stuff as well. And I feel oftentimes that's kind of a good halfway point or like partial solution to a lot of the models. You can often fit some collapsible stock in there without having to like really rework the entire model. Um,
Yeah, no, I think it's true.
what episode is this again?
Yeah,
59.
59. Captain Timble, you mentioned here that you can't have a sock when you have such big ass shoulder pads. It's like, yeah, I kind of wonder if that's probably the main reason or one of the reasons why they never had stock. They stopped putting stocks on bolters because it would just be too hard to do that. So they just stopped and like, well, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of true.
And now there are all these like neck beards who come in and try to explain it like, oh well, there's a logical like background reason for this, which is just all kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And that like the real reason for that has nothing to do with like actual reason. Well, I mean, I guess it is a reason, but it's not one that's guided in any sort of reality.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody,
sometimes.
I want to go to bed. I need to be up early tomorrow. So I
All
think
right.
I'm going to jump on out. But yeah, it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, well, thanks for talking, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Keep soldiering on, everybody.
Certainly.
Well, yeah. So, of all the people listening here, are any of you excited for any of the stuff that was revealed? And if so, do you have kind of something in mind that you want to do with it?
Human Blood Bowl team using the enforcers. They look better than the human Blood Bowl team currently.
They do. They do. Well, of all the stuff you saw there, Adam, if you did have time, like, what would be what's the first thing that comes to mind for you that you would like to kind of mess around with?
I feel if anything, it's probably um, probably those new enforcer models. Like I feel I look forward to like getting them and being disgusted by like, oh god, their poses are even worse than I thought they were. But then kind of I still think it'll be fun to try and remedy some of those issues, and like I think they'll be cool models. Like I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
them.
well, I had mentioned,
They would work great for Space Marine Scouts, and I think we will see tons of
yeah.
people making Space Marine Scouts
Well, Adam,
with
you
them.
had painted that one. I think his name was Mad Morris, is like an old Rogue Trader model that's like really kind of hunched over and weird looking. I
Yeah,
kind of feel these enforcers would be perfect for that
yeah,
to make a
they look
version
a
of
lot
that.
like that. They do have Primaris helmets. It's like why? Like I understand them wanting to redesign their like helmets and like maybe make them look less Judge Dredd like, but like they didn't have to make them look like Intercessor Space Marine helmets. Like I question like why they did that.
Yeah, no, it is peculiar.
Like maybe it was just the like, hey, let's you know what, let's just make this easier for all the people who want to convert scouts. Like like we'll give them bolters. Like yeah, they won't have to do a lot. People will like it. They'll buy them in droves. That's yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of excited about the bird people. Um, they look good. Like I'm excited about them. I like them, but like I realistically like I don't unless I come up with like a cool project where I want to use them for like I doubt I'd do anything with
It
them.
would almost have to be like, oh, doing some event or something that like you wanted to make,
I
because
almost feel
otherwise,
like aside from the enforcers, the thing that I would have the best chance of like actually using in conversions are is this Wood Elf Blood Bowl team,
well, yeah,
particularly
because like
like
you
this
have a
like
bunch of hands that are probably not like
they're pretty
fucking
small.
gigantic.
Like particularly there's the one who's just like kind of like hunching down a little bit, like the legs aren't spread too far apart. Like that right there. Great base model for making like Inquisitor operative in like a body glove. Just like shave off the stupid like loincloth, modify the
Yeah,
boots and stuff, and like that'll be really great.
well,
And
they have
like
some
the
interesting masks that would be good for like kind of masquerade like sort of stuff for Inquisitor like stuff. Like, and I feel having all these hands that aren't like holding big ass stupid weapons and such. Like,
That'll
I
actually
feel
probably be really helpful. Yeah.
well, I feel it's one of those things that I mean, I guess we tend to now buy kits with a sense that like I want this for that one hand and that one this, which I
Yeah.
guess not that many people really have much interest in doing. But I feel this they will be good for that sort of conversion idea to have them such that like oh if you do need another hand or you do need this or that they will I think be good for that, but it's not like you're going to buy it and build all 10 of them to create your new war band or something.
Well, the one dude running without like the shirt, that right there, perfect, perfect thing to convert into like an Arco flagellant, sort of like the ones Kiri from
Yeah,
Iron Sleet and Spiky Rat Pack made years ago. Like there, right there, half the
you could
model's
also
done for you.
it would be fun to convert a Everstor assassin out of one.
Yeah, you could do that. You could certainly
Maybe
do that.
like an actual cool looking Eversor assassin with like like an actual skull like face or something, and like so. Yeah, I feel these will be great for
I
stuff
heard
like
someone talking about the new Raven warband and sort of said they reminded him of like in the Mad Max Fury Road when they were in like the watery,
the
swampy
still
area.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all like the weird people on stilts with the ravens and stuff. They sort of, and I can sort of see where they're coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they'll be perfect for conversions and stuff. And as a matter of fact, yeah, just about everything they showed at the UK Gaming Expo, I think will find its place in lots of different conversions. Yeah, so a good showing. But yeah, I feel like I'm surprisingly excited about the Wood Elf Blood Bowl team because if they're very similar to like the Dark Elf Blood Bowl team, and like there have been tons of people that have made really nice, cool like 40k conversions using those bodies and legs and stuff, and like these I think are even better than that because they're less bulky, they have less extra like armored leather and stuff, so it will be even easier to like convert them into whatever it is you want to convert them into.
Well, like Wilbur Waitley, like he's been doing a great job of converting various models and stuff from Blood Bowl teams. Like he made that sort of Judge Death
Mm-hmm.
kind of looking model out of one of the undead team members. He's now converting kind of a uh, Nurgle Blight King sort of model with a halfling head.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
he used the one mummy sort of model from the undead to make kind of like an unarmored space marine, like doing a lot of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, those the models are nice for doing stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Timble you're mentioning here. Like I almost think yeah, these wood elves are like better looking Harlequins. Not that the Harlequins are bad, but I feel these are yeah even better. And part of it's just because they're um, not quite as flamboyant. They certainly have
Mm-hmm.
dynamic poses that filled with motion and such, but they aren't so filled with other shit. So I think is nice. This yeah is really nice.
And since they don't have weapons, like you would have to convert your own and you could make them smaller.
It's true, and
Would
they're
look
not
good.
just shooting them.
Yeah.
Shooting there. But yeah, no, I
As
think
a matter
they're
of fact, you could use this team to convert like a better looking like human Blood Bowl team.
Yep.
because these, like, their poses and proportions are a lot less wonky than like the official Midgard Delvers or whatever they're called. Like, just sculpt on some more like some bulkier like armor and change their heads, and like you'd probably be pretty good to go.
Hmm.
Um, that would be a lot of work, so
I feel though all this stuff would be good for good conversion corner material, like,
that's true.
but
That's true.
just to like quickly, I mean, even just for like the enforcers, like modify some of the stuff with maybe too much changing to it, just to show like, hey, like
Like, I feel the
if I
biggest thing, those enforcers, they have the sniper rifle model, that they have a pretty good pose with the stock. So just take that sniper rifle, chop it way down into like a smaller rifle, and there you go. You have a cool conversion, and change the
yeah,
head, and give them smaller
well, you
feet.
could, yeah, probably cut off the head and just put a like a Mark 8 Space Marine head on it. Like they want it to begin with, right? So might as well
Yeah,
just
it would
go
be great. I mean, I'm
full
sure in
bore.
terms of their size, they're gonna be pretty big. I think they're gonna be
Yeah.
big. So, probably too big. I'll probably be disappointed on how big they are. They're
Hmm.
probably about the size of the Goliaths.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think
bigger than,
yeah, they
yeah, so they're
haven't
probably bigger
shown.
than the intercessor models, meaning that they won't be good to convert scouts in the sense that,
Yeah, they
I mean, I
probably
guess
are
they'd be
bigger.
fine. If they were the same, well, nah, it still wouldn't make that much sense. But
They're specialist games. They don't have to make sense. They don't have to fit with the rest of the stuff.
it's true. They don't. They
But yeah,
don't.
that's my prediction. They'll be a little too big. They'll be a slightly smaller than the Goliaths, but not so small that they'd make sense as like Space Marines. They'll probably be bigger than the
Yeah,
Primaris Marines.
I could certainly see that.
Their thighs are certainly bigger. But I
Hmm.
don't think they really showed them in pictures with other models to get a good sense of any of that. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, we'll see when it's. Well, we talked a little bit maybe in one of the last things, Adam. Um, this ever chosen painting competition. That's like at the end of July, right?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
that'll be after we're back from the Mordheim 2019 thing, and you will have finished painting it. So like it seems like you should take them on down to your local whatever GW store somewhere, and
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly consider doing that. I guess we still don't really know much
you
of anything about the competition, so yeah.
know, it is unclear, but I feel you could probably enter a single model and
Yeah,
maybe at Warband and like the open thing. I don't know.
we'll see.
It is weird though because it's probably a lot of it's like a popularity contest at the individual stores.
Yeah. I mean,
So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
god damn it, I should have painted Space Marines.
Yeah, it's true.
I've given all the Space Marines I painted away. They're all gone.
Yeah, no, cause like because
Oh.
everyone loves Space Marines, like that Death Guard you made or that Elder one you made. Like those would have been.
Hmm.
But I guess there was both were like so converted that
They
um,
probably wouldn't like them. Yeah.
maybe the Death Guard would be fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're just so. I guess Lord Sylvania or Captain Timberley. Or do you have any?
Aspirations to enter
Yeah,
Ever Chosen. Do you have a GW close to you? Like I assume I think there are a few in
There
Maryland, but
are
I've
a bunch.
not been to any.
I went to one about a year ago, and
Was that good? You just rush back every couple weeks, it sounds.
yeah, I went there once and never again. I
Well,
mean, it
hope you
wasn't.
can go again.
Yeah, it wasn't bad by any means. It was actually better than I anticipated it would have been.
Hmm. That's
But
encouraging. At least that. The one I used to go to in San Diego was pretty good. I liked it. Um, Super small though, and I think all of them are really small.
yeah, I think that is kind of the thing. Like, it's a weird, like, unlike
You should enter
sort of,
some of your converted Marines. They're cool.
yeah. And I think if it's largely voted, like people vote them, like I feel people love the shit out of Space Marines,
Yeah,
in
they
particular
do.
cool converted ones like yours. Like people will like that.
Oh, I like that. I love
Yeah.
that.
But I mean, it seems like it's something that if you have the opportunity, it seems like you might as well try to enter it because, you know, it's probably kind of up in the air, but it still seems like it is the opportunity that, oh, maybe you could win the store and then somehow get it put up on the community page or something of that nature. Yeah, maybe that'll be our opportunity, Adam, to get noticed by the community team such that
Maybe. Like,
they'll start sending us models.
but would we even
Won't
want
want
them?
models that we won't actually want to assemble or do anything with, then feel awkward about the whole thing, and then they
So
stop.
hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's true.
No, and I think I hopefully it just encourages more people in general to actually go to their local or semi-local Games Workshop stores.
Because I think they just recently announced that like July 29th is like some special Games Workshop day or whatever. And they said there'll be some promotional models and things. And I'm pretty sure that's when the uh,
Oh, the
painting
comp.
thing is. Oh, yeah. So it's join the celebration June 29th, Warhammer Day. So I think they didn't really say anything about it. Duncan is just in a video saying that it's going to happen and there'll be some promotional stuff. So I feel that's perhaps even more reason. Like, so they're trying to get people to go out and do stuff. So, like, might be some promotional models or something, and like can go and enter the models you painted into this kind of store painting competition. So, I mean, that seems pretty neat in a way to potentially build the community a little bit. So, I
Yeah, no,
feel,
overall it's good. It's good.
I mean,
It's
I
good.
guess in that sense, I could probably take my Niton stuff.
May as well. They're
Yeah.
cool. They will be cool when they're painted.
Hmm.
I guess I don't think none of you were here like when we started the podcast. I don't think, but I can show you sneak peeks of the first Sister of Sigmar that I painted. And it's probably going up on Instagram reasonably soon, and maybe the blog post. So I've painted what largely finished, I think, the first of the sisters. In this case, like the Plague Doctor one. Um, I still sort of feel there's more stuff that I would like to do with her coat, but I've already spent so much time on it. I have to move on. But overall, I'm happy with her. Um, we can. Oh, there's the wraith, and there's the back. So yeah, only 6 more to paint. I think. Like, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, it is gonna be tough. Did you decide kind of what you want to paint next, and is there kind of a reason for that?
I think of the models, I will probably paint the metal Sister Superior, the one that I converted off one of the original sisters, primarily because she sort of has a combination of like the robes and the armor and everything. So if I sort of figure out the scheme and stuff for her, then I'll largely have it kind of ready and set in stone for painting all the rest of the others. So I think that's what I'll do.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true,
already I
and
painted like the shield and stuff on her base.
that's true. And I think since it's primarily like kind of a single cast metal model, it might be easier to paint too.
Yeah, I mean that's true too. Actually, like it since it is like a single piece model, it's easier to it'll be a little easier to paint. And I want to see what she looks like with her shield that I painted. It'll be cool. So hopefully, if all goes well, by the end of this coming weekend, I will be finished with her and well on my way to finishing another.
Yeah, no, that
We'll
will be
see.
good.
We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully I
Paint more of the wraiths, Eric. Your first one looks
yeah
good.
I've been working on it. Like because honestly, I have like not too much time, and most of my weekends from now on are taken up by various things. So like,
That's not good, Eric.
no,
Weekend
it's not.
time's prime painting time. Like I need those weekends to paint. Long
But,
uninterrupted hours of work.
yeah, I feel soon it will get to just long nights.
It's like I want to go to bed, but I can't. Like if I go to bed, I won't be able to. Yeah, I hear that. Well, I guess with that in mind, maybe we should call this stream to a close. It's
Yeah,
it's almost 1 o'clock here for us, so that's it's pretty late. Um, well, thanks everyone for like joining us and chatting with us about
yeah,
the hobby and like our thoughts and ideas about the different models and everything like that. It's been fun. We'll certainly be back again at the very least next time around this time. And there's a chance since we'll be doing a lot more painting now. Like maybe we'll have some other live streams where we'll just be maybe Eric and I will be chatting while we're painting. If people would be
yeah. No, I mean,
interested in that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, again, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you all soon. Keep on working at the hobby. Doing with it what you want. It's always good to see people's own unique take on things. All right, until next time.
yeah. See you, everybody.
Over and
Thanks.
out.